Hello, welcome back to Comic Flip. Today we are doing a recap review video on The Last Stop on the Red Line. This is published by Dark Horse Comics. Story is written by Paul Maybury, art by Sam Lotfi, color by John Rauch, and letters by Adam Pruitt. The synopsis reads, Detective Migdalia Torres investigates a vicious strangling on a Boston subway car with no feasible leads. As potential evidence produces dead ends, Migdalia inadvertently takes in a vagrant named Yusef, who may have a supernatural connection to the crime at hand. So first impressions before we jump into the meat of the book. At first glance, the cover is absolutely stunning off of this. The first read-through, I was absolutely confused. I wasn't really a fan of the art. There was a couple of pages that I really enjoyed, but this book definitely requires that you pay attention, and it required me to read it more than once. So with that, let's jump into the book. Spoiler warning, from this point on forward, you've been warned. So the first page starts off with a quote from Mr. Butch, which I found out later on is a street poet from Boston, and it's very important to know that this book is based in Boston. So the quote reads, I am New England every day, born proud, New England heart, New England there, New England art, New England man, New England supreme, New England person not lost in a dream. So this quote is obviously the first page for a reason. It's setting the tone for the book. And then on the next page, it gives you the date of April 15th, 2013, which is the date of the Boston Marathon bombing. And in blue font, you have, I'm not sure which is scarier, when you see the monster or when you don't. And it's a picture of everyone cheering on runners at the Boston Marathon and then the explosion. Then you have Last Stop on the Red Line. The subway doors close and you're introduced to our first characters, Elias and Tanja. Elias is graffitiing on the subway. Tanja kind of scolds him for this, and Elias is like, yo, lower your tone, there could be like an undercover cop on the subway. And then the next thing you know, they're getting up to go off the subway, and then they get knocked off the train. In the frame, it looks like a monkey paw to me. It's a weird arm. On the next page, you have no dialogue. You just have a picture of what looks like a vagrant wearing baggy clothes. You see his green eye. He explodes out of the clothes, and it's a monster. There's some girl on the train who's about to get eaten. And on the next page, you have this character who appears. Again, there's no dialogue on the page, and it looks like he's either entering the monster and then ends up in a field. We later learn that this character's name is Yusef. The next page jumps back to the aftermath of what happened on the Red Line. The girl is on the floor, and you're introduced to Detective Migdalia Torres, who is requesting the footage but is not able to get the footage off the train, but notes that the victim died from manual strangulation, which nearly severed her head. We jump back to Yusef, and in blue letters we have another quote. It's not always easy to tell who the monster is. That's when you go with your gut. Yusef is with Geese, and you're introduced to Detective Torres' daughter, Beatrice, and Detective Torres is offering Yusef dinner. Yusef is definitely hesitant at first. You could tell he's not a fan of cops. And then the next panel, it goes purple. So I believe Yusef is seeing these purple-green monsters, and no one else is seeing them. You also learn that Detective Torres has a son named Octavio, and that Yusef is homeless because Detective Torres says that he's participating in a program at the Acorn Shelter, and that she's going to find him some clothes to wear. On the next page, you learn that Detective Torres is married. Yusef knocks over her husband's sleeping pills, and then she goes to find him some clothes. Thought bubbles appear that are in that purple and blue writing, so I think Yusef hears voices, and he sees Detective Torres changing. He comes over and says stop, and then he says the door was open and shuts it. So this also sets up his moral code. He seems to be a good person, but he seems to be having these visions and hearing voices. And then Detective Torres gives him her dad's sweater. Yusef goes downstairs and sees the children watching a scary movie. He asks, do you like scary movies? And Octavio says, yeah, but sometimes it's hard to tell what's real and what isn't, which I think is a very poignant line. Then it jumps to them having Chinese food, and Detective Torres is like, hey Beatrice, tell us what Yusef did to save you. She said she dropped a bunch of crumbs on herself and geese were attacking her, and then Yusef arrived and used his superpowers. Then they're interrupted because Warren, Detective Torres' husband, gets home. Warren asks, hey, what'd you do to save my kid? He learns that he protected her from murderous geese. He's like, thanks, shakes his hand, now get out of my house. Then there's a stare down between the two of them. And Detective Torres runs out saying like, hey, I'm sorry, here's some money, take a cab, grab some food, keep the sweater. And Yusef is like, this is the highlight of my day. On the next page, you're introduced to a character named Zev and Wolf, who look like a wannabe vampire and a wannabe werewolf. It looks like they are in some sort of counseling, like Alcoholics Anonymous. And we see that Yusef is there. So the lead counselor, kind of looks like a psychiatrist, calls out Yusef and says, hey, the last time you were here talking about insomnia, how's that going? Yusef says he's able to manage sleep. The problem is he keeps having this dream. He's a girl in this dream and he's attacked and strangled on a train. Then it jumps to Yusef, Zev, and Wolf leaving. They run into a character named Barry, who is very short and weird looking. He looks kind of like a leprechaun, actually. And he actually gets called out for looking like a goggled-eyed leprechaun. And then it's established in these few pages that Yusef has been gone for a while, and they're kind of wondering where he's been. After they meet this new character, Barry, Yusef is like, I'm going for a walk to clear my head. And they remind him that curfew's at 8. Because remember, he's at a shelter. In the next few panels, it shows Yusef going off doing his own thing. He's at Dave's. He's eating some food outside a wine and liquor store, which he actually picks up wine and liquor. He goes to a church. Then he ends up talking to himself and names someone named X. He's trying to get back to his dreamscape, so he's drinking, and it says in the red bubble, party or meditative dream state, I'll watch over you. Then it jumps, the next few pages, you're following a young girl in a yellow sweater get on the red line. An old lady gets on behind her, she sits down, and then the panel zooms in on her eyes, and they're green with skulls in them. Some guy's trying to get off at his stop because he wasn't paying attention, he was on his phone. Typical. He gets stuck on the door. He's trying to get off. He gets off, and then the old lady turns into the green monster and attacks the girl in the yellow sweater. I really enjoyed these last few set of panels. The old lady turning into the green monster, as what I'm referring it to as, looks really badass. And the last page is a splash page of Yusef. It looks like he's flying through a portal or a sewer. He's definitely underground. There's skeletons all around him, and he's shooting like purple clouds out of his hand. At least that's what it looks like. Or he's underwater or something. It's a very interesting splash page. And it's actually the last page of the book as well. On the back cover, there is a quote from Kelly Sue DeConnick, which, if you don't know, she wrote Bitch Planet in Captain Marvel. She writes that the book is a paranormal psychodrama with a Lovecraftian twist. There is also this green symbol on the back cover, which I believe is what Elias was graffitiing on the train on the first couple of pages, so I guess in the future we'll learn what this actually means. This book is definitely a love letter to Boston. My favorite character is Yusef because he's shrouded in mystery as of right now. I really didn't care for all the other characters. I wasn't really a big fan of the art. I had to read it more than once. But I really did enjoy the monster, the green villain thing they're creating. And I do enjoy the mystery element of it. I'm not sure if I'd pick up issue 2. I'd probably wait for the trades on this one. But overall, it was an interesting read. Different from anything else out there currently. It's kind of like a horror mystery, definitely. But that's it for my review for this book. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this book, if you picked it up, or if you have any suggestions on what I should recap next. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.